Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Friday, the 29th day of July, 2022. I hope you're all healthy and safe today, and that you and your family are healthy and safe, and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food and shelter and clothing, as well as health, are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field and the first responders who are out here every day. I'm trying to get the light right. Who are here every day trying to save lives. Blessings upon those that pick up garbage for us to keep streets and sidewalks, parks clean. And those that make deliveries for our convenience, like to stores and the supermarkets, and other deliveries of important items that we take for granted every day. Double blessings on the men and women that are trying to help deliver, rescue, and recover the teenagers and the children who are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. Also, victims of pornography and child pornography. Victims of prostitution and child prostitution. Victims of human trafficking and sex slavery, and double curses upon the perpetrators, the perverts, and the profiteers who are out here trafficking in this human misery on a daily basis. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and children on the streets of the United States of America, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions, and blessings upon them also. For theirs is the kingdom, and if you could do anything to help, please do. Yesterday, I was on my man Jay Ellis's and Ryan G's show in Nick of Time TV, and they had a special guest. The special guest was a man that was called Snoop B. Snoop B. And I never met him. I never talked to him. I didn't even know much about him. I just heard a couple of years ago that he had put out a tweet a couple of years ago that I remembered about the imminence of Kevin Durant coming to the Knicks or something like that, or Kyrie coming to the Knicks, and it should happen, blah, 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 and it never did. And then, so I just piled him on with all the fake news. But he straightened me out last night because he brought out his resume. And then what he did further, which was more important to me, he brought out information that tied things together. For example, he gave us a little history of World Wide West. World Wide West was how he started back in the day, was what's called a runner. Now, if you don't know what a runner is, okay, so you have talented basketball players or talented athletes, but I'm talking specifically in terms of basketball. I mean talented so that they have a possibility of becoming an NBA player. You will have agents or would-be agents or want to be agents contacting or trying to contact that player, that talent. And they're trying to convince them ultimately to sign a contract so that that agent could represent them in contracts in the future. Okay. Now, the runner is generally almost like a gatekeeper. That's the person between the parents and the player and the agent. And that person either connects the agent to the player or communicates things between the player and the player's parents and the agent. Now, some guys that are basketball players don't deal with runners, but generally runners are friends, or even family. They could be cousins of the player, or they could have grown up with the player, and known them that way. So a lot of times runner, and what do they get for this? Well, they hope to get a little kickback when the player makes the money, or sometimes they get a little kick from the agent who's trying to connect with the player. There are a lot of runners. People you never heard of, people you don't know, but they're out there, right? And World Wide West was one of them, and he worked hard as a runner. And generally also a runner is connected to the player, aside from maybe knowing the player, knowing the player's family, knowing the player's father, things of that nature. They're also connected sometimes by like through summer leagues, basketball play, AAU, coaching, or knowing the coach or an assistant coach, or hanging around the players, or just from the park or from the neighborhood. They're known entities to the player generally. World Wide West was one of these. And he worked really hard at that to the point where he had gotten connected to some serious talent and some agents, and brought agents and talent together. This was back in the 90s, right? And in the early 2000s, and connected, and sometimes, as Scoop brought out to us, with squash beefs, like between Allen Iverson and Larry Brown. Like, he was the mediator. And that's what, because generally a runner is really good interpersonally. They may not have been trained in school to communicate or teach or anything like that, but they have a talent for communication and bringing people together, because that's what they do. Okay. And so that's how World Wide Wes got started. And that's how he got connected to Leon Rose, who was trying to be an agent. You got to start with client number one, right? You got to get a client. Generally, the runners help you. And then, of course, later on, when he got connected to bigger talent, he was connected to bigger players. He get connected to coaches like Tom Thibodeau. And he joins agencies that represent players. And he worked really hard. And the thing I brought all that out is to say, Rose, Wes, and the crew like Scott Perry, Walt Perrin, they're all on the same page. That's real important. They're all working together. They got the same goals. And that's important. When you're building a long-term sustainable winner, the first thing you got to do is get a front office that works together. That's the first thing you got to do. Get a front office that has a common goal, not only a common goal, but a common way of getting to that goal, right? And then understanding together how they're going to do it and by what means. And so if it's long-term sustainable winning, you're looking at, now they're going to have disagreements. And you've heard that. Like, for example, there was disagreements in the front office about drafting Obi Toppin or drafting Emmanuel Quickly. Some players wanted something else. We're talking about I'm not going back past Leon Rose. I'm talking about during the Leon Rose era, which is now, he's been involved with 2 drafts, I think. Yeah, he's been involved 3 drafts. This is his 3rd draft. So there was the Obi Toppin conversation. There was the, Emmanuel Quickly, like World Wide Wes was pushing Emmanuel Quickly. Eventually World Wide Wes connected, and this is going back to when he connected with Calipari, right? Which connects him to Kentucky. And that's the game. It's connections, right? And so Wes is a communicator. If you don't know anything else about him, I never met the man, but I could tell you, for him to have that history, he's a communicator. He is a communicator, and he's a bringing together of people. Okay. So that being the case, we have a really good front office, which brings me to, I asked Scoop about the Donovan Mitchell. One of us asked him about the Donovan Mitchell situation. And he brought out some interesting points. He said at first, Mitchell just wanted to come to New York, and he didn't care if it was the Nets or the Knicks. But he said over time, it became evident that he preferred and wants to play for the Knicks. Okay. So now that can kind of put a squash on people claiming, Donovan Mitchell doesn't care. He's not pushing the trade. That's not true. He wants to come to the Knicks. Okay. For whatever reason, he's being quiet, and that's probably wise. He's just being quiet. So he wants to come to the Knicks. Number 2, we asked him about Danny Ainge's price. And he said that the Knicks management felt that Ainge was asking for too much and just told him to go lower his price, which is what we've been saying. Go out there and find a better deal. If you can, get it. If you can't, come back and we could talk. So to me, the conversation with Scoop connected certain dots. He was naming players that Wes had connected with and how he connected with them. And I can't remember all the players he named. He mentioned Dewan Wagner, of course, Milt Wagner, his father, and things like that. And I could see that because I've seen it for myself in terms of other players on a street level. I've seen it and I've known it myself. So that made me have more respect for the management team as terms of them being a one accord. And I asked him point blank, do you perceive that the management team is on the same page, that they're united? He said, oh yeah, very. That's really good, y'all. That's really good for the Knicks going forward in terms of building long-term sustainable winner. It starts with good management. I know people will say automatically, well, you need talent. Well, yeah, you do need talent. But the first talent you need is in the front office. That's the first talent you need. Okay? If you got an incompetent first front office, it don't matter what kind of talent you get. They're going to blow it. They're going to make bad trades, bad decisions. They're going to draft, bad players. They're not going to build the team right. They're not going to get the right coaches. It's going to be a disaster. When you have bad management, we have good management. Now, with regard to Tom Thibodeau, I know a lot of us, definitely I was among them, definitely frustrated with Tom Thibodeau. I'm mostly in Tom Thibodeau's camp, but I've been frustrated with his stubbornness, especially last year. And we, documented how it became stupid that he was starting Alec Burks. He wasn't playing the kids enough minutes, and they were playing them some minutes, but he should have been playing them more heavier minutes, and we could have won some more games, but he was being stubborn. That's been documented. But overall, I got the sense that the front office being of one accord, they're expecting Tom Thibodeau to be on board. And if Tom pushes back too much, they'll move it. That's what I got. That's why I asked Scoop about the camaraderie of the front office. They're not, and then last year, as you know, it was reported by Ian Begley, World Wide West wanted Tom out. And why? Because he was being stubborn and it passed into stupidity. Now, the question is, will Tom learn his lesson? He's 62 years old. I'm 61. I hope that I could still learn stuff when I'm 61. I'm still trying to learn stuff when I'm 61. I hope Tom learns something. Because this is the year, you see, and you look back last year, the signing or re-signing of a Nerlens Noel, of an Alec Burks, of a Derrick Rose, of a Kemba Walker, of an Evan Fournier. These players, for the most part, except for maybe Fournier, but for the most part, these guys were signed as stopgaps. What is a stopgap? That's a player you put in place until another player is ready. Somebody you're grooming. So these guys were all simply stopgaps until guys like Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, until these guys were ready to step up and assume more responsibility to the winning culture of long-term sustainable winning. And so now you have that. You just signed Mitchell Robinson to be your long-term starting five at the five. RJ about to get his extension probably in October before the first game. Then you're going to have guys like Grimes quickly step up, and let's not forget my boy Deuce. All of them, including Jericho and all of them, they're going to have to make their way, as now it's time to phase into the guys that you drafted, which is why we're not really worried about Donovan Mitchell. It'd be nice to get Donovan Mitchell. It really would. He's an all-star level player. He's a force. He could help the Knicks win more basketball games. He's only 25. He'll be 26 soon, but he's in his prime. He will help us. But if we don't get him, we got a program that's already been started. We got draft capital. We got young talent. We can move forward, okay? With or without Tom Thibodeau, we can move forward, okay? And so the Scoop interview really enlightened me. Oh, one other thing that I found out I feel like is important. He also confirmed from his own sources that if indeed the Knicks do land Donovan Mitchell, that immediately Julius Randle's going to be shipped out. Immediately. Like, I couldn't understand, I've had my issues with Julius Randle, but in terms of just looking at it objectively as a talent, he's a talented NBA basketball player. Julius Randle is. There's no doubt. But in terms of attitude, that's been lacking. His character, in terms of on the court character. Now, I don't know what kind of husband and father he is. I hope he's good. He looks really happy with his wife and children. And I hope everything's good for him at home. But in terms of on the court demeanor, character, team camaraderie, he's been lacking. He's been inconsistent. He definitely has not been a leader. RJ Barrett, who just turned 22, has been more of a leader in that category. Facing the media, dealing and encouraging the teammates, so on and so forth. Julius has been lacking in that area, number one. And then number two, even though he is extremely talented, he is not a number one option. Let's just take something as a given for the sake of what I'm about to argue right now. Let's take as a given that talent-wise, and I'm not sure this is true, but I'm just going to take it as a given for this hypothesis. Let's take it as a given that Julius Randle is more talented than Obi Toppin as a basketball player. He's more talented. Okay, let's take that as a given for this argument. Obi Toppin might not be as talented, but he fits better. He fits better in the starting five. He's more seamless. He's more upbeat. He brings more positive energy. And he is a pretty daggone talented player in his own right. Right? So sometimes it's not the level of talent. In fact, a lot of times it's the fit. It's about the fit. Getting 2010 is good. But if it's not resulting in bringing your team to the next level, you see the great ones make everybody around them better. It's not about just them getting 2010. They're getting 2010, but everybody else is going to another level. That is what makes a player great. That's what makes those type of players that you want. They join the team and everybody, I've seen Larry Bird when he was at Indiana State. I've seen him when he was young in his prime with the Celtics. He could have played with 5 midgets, man. Everybody's going to be better when he played. Magic Johnson, same thing. Okay. There's certain guys when they come on the court, they make everybody look better. LeBron did it too. He made people look good that they just got off the scrap heap so he could win a chip when he's in his prime. So that's what you want. Getting the stats is nice. 2010. Oh yeah, he averaged 2010, but his teams don't get better around him. He doesn't make the guys around him better, which tells me I already say he was talented, but I'm telling you he's not a number one option. He's not the guy that you want to look for to lead you out into the promised land. He's not that guy. He's a second or third option. Okay. We've been saying that. And so they brought him to New York to be the guy. And it's just not worked out in that position. Now you got RJ Barrett, who you have drafted, and now you are grooming to be the face of your franchise. You bring in Jalen Brunson, who is a natural born leader and came in to get the keys to the team, which he is going to get. Now you have true leaders, true camaraderie, guys that will bring people together. They may not be the most talented, but as a unit, they will work better. And that is how you build long-term sustainable winning. Now, when you want to win chips, yeah, you got to go get a talent. But we're not there yet. Some of y'all running beforehand. We're not there yet. Let us develop the camaraderie, the glue together, the teamwork, okay? The spirit of we pulling for each other and everybody being from the front office down to the coach, they're on the same page. Let's develop that first. Then a superstar's going to want to come. Superstars like those situations. Like your management, your coaching staff, and your players are all on the same page. There's a camaraderie. There's a spirit. Everybody's pulling for each other. And they're winning basketball games. That's called a superstar to say, oh man, I'm up for my renewal. I could opt out. Let me go check out the Knicks. That's what you want. Scoop provided last night some real nice dots in that regard. Like I said, he confirmed some Julius Randle stuff, some Donovan Mitchell stuff from his sources. He also gave me, not just me, he gave all of us his laundry list of accurate predictions. See, I was dissing him off his, I don't know if it's Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant, I can't remember which one, but I was dissing him off that, but he came correct, and he brought his resume or what he did predict. Okay, so I earned my respect with that last night, but it was good to hear from him, and we were honored to have him on the show, and I was honored to be among the panel. It was good, all that was good, but it also confirmed to me the most important thing in the whole deal is my Knicks, right? That's what we're dealing with. And what do we want from our Knicks? We want our Knicks to win. We want our Knicks to win long term. long-term sustainable winning. Most of us understand that. There's a few in Knick Nation that still don't get it yet. They still from the previous era of crack. But hey, hopefully y'all catch up soon. But most of us understand that's what we're trying to do. Win long term. No shortcuts. Develop the right way. Okay. And I'm glad to know that we got the front office that could do that. Y'all enjoy your weekend. Please be safe out there. Happy Friday. Shalom.